Alright, here we go. This is the last part of Chase's ranking every Dreamworks movie. Alright, not gonna say anything about it, so let's go. The Boss Baby.
The Boss Baby
Oh,
is one of the most brain-dead, retarded movies to ever come into contact with my frontal lobe, and for that I love it. I have no idea why.
What I just saw
Movies to ever come into contact with my frontal lobe, and for
is the movie humping his brain?
that I love it. I have no idea why, but I had the best time of my life watching The Boss Baby of all movies. Anyways, so The Boss Baby is about this baby who wears a suit and talks. And it's funny, because, you know, he's a baby. There's also this other kid called Tim who tries to get rid of the Boss Baby by having him ran over by a car. And then Tim and the Boss Baby team up to try to stop an evil organization from launching immortal puppies. Because babies and puppies are apparently mortal enemies in this movie. There's also these chase scenes that happen between the Boss Baby to try and stop the evil bad guy from doing his evil bad things. And for some reason, the music went so incredibly hard that I forgot I was watching The Boss Baby in the first place. After all this stuff happens, the Boss Baby triumphs and gets promoted, but then just decides to throw it all away to become a normal baby. And that's pretty much it. Wait, hold on a second. No, not again! No! So yeah, that was The Boss Baby. Honestly, not the best movie out there, but somehow also not the worst. Anyways, C tier, I guess.
I guess. Oh, Captain Underpants. I've seen this movie before. And I also read the novel.
As an avid fan of the Captain Underpants books as a kid, I can 100% tell you that this is an amazing adaptation. Not only did this movie capture the essence of reading these books, it adds on to them, with more depth and thought put into the story. So just like the books, Captain Underpants focuses on the two kids, George and Harold. We also learn that they constantly get in trouble at school because of some minor trolling. And also their evil principal, Mr. Krupp. The next day they have to sit through some kid called Melvin's presentation, who's also quite literally the nerd emoji in human form. And Melvin pretty much uses a hidden camera to snitch on
Kind of like the angry video game nerd.
George and Harold. So to avoid them from being in separate classes, George uses a hypno ring to hypnotize Mr. Krupp into becoming Captain Underpants. And then we get
Also, don't if you're at school as the principal, don't put I can't speak! Let's keep going.
possibly the greatest intro scene to any superhero ever.
Underpants. Check.
We also learn that if you snap near Mr. Krupp, he turns into Captain Underpants, but if you throw water at him, he turns back to Krupp, just like in the comics. The next day, this German inventor called Professor P applies to be a science teacher, but then George and Harold unveil that the P in his name actually stands for Poopy Pants, causing all the kids to laugh at his expense. Yes, this is real. This guy's whole villain origin story was that he was once a successful inventor that nobody took seriously because of his name. So now he's taking his revenge in society by teaming up with Melvin and attempting to rid the world of laughter by making a giant toilet. And we get this amazing action scene told through the perspective of Flipporama. Man, they really thought of everything, didn't they? So Professor Poopy Pants uses his anti-laughing ray to try and stop George and Harold from laughing, which end up backfiring on him. In the end, George and Harold decide what's best is to break the hypno ring, thus killing Captain Underpants. Until at the very end where Captain Underpants returns setting up the next sequel. If only.
Still no sequel after 6 years.
Captain Underpants is such a great movie. It excels at pretty much everything a Captain Underpants adaptation could have excelled at, and perfectly captures what it's like to read a Captain Underpants book, all down to the small details in the art style and writing. Dreamworks, please make a sequel. S tier.
How to Train Your Dragon 3, The Hidden World. Now, this is the first Dreamworks film to be distributed by Universal Studios. Or released by Universal Studios. Haven't seen this movie yet.
How to Train Your Dragon 3 is great, there is no denying that. For some reason, I never really paid close attention to this series, but now having rewatched the entire trilogy, this is cinema. So, this movie starts a few years after Hiccup becomes chief, but then he learns that this warmonger called Grimmel was trying to hunt down his Night Fury. Also, he was apparently responsible for endangering them in the first place and wanted to finally make them extinct. So then Hiccup starts to search for the Hidden World, a supposed safe haven for dragons to live in harmony. Oh yeah, and they also discover the female Night Fury, the Light Fury, who I actually thought was much needed to the plot to develop Toothless's character. Hiccup and Astrid eventually find the Hidden World and see Toothless and the Light Fury as a couple, leading the vast nest of dragons. But then they get outed by the dragons as intruders. In my opinion, this was a huge turning point in the story, because it's when Hiccup first realizes that humans should be leaving the dragons alone as opposed to trading them like pets. Hiccup then plants an ambush on Grimmel's army, which works until Grimmel tranquilizes Toothless. But then Hiccup gets saved and Grimmel falls 1,000 feet into the ocean, possibly shattering every bone in his body and killing him instantly. Hiccup then decides what's best is for all the dragons to be set free to live in the Hidden World. And then we get this emotional scene of everyone letting their dragons go, and man, it was perfect. There's also this ending scene of Hiccup and Toothless reuniting, where Hiccup and the other Vikings vow to keep the dragons a secret from humankind until they're ready to coexist without some crazy lunatic trying to murder them. This right here, ladies and gentlemen, is a perfect ending to this trilogy. Honestly, I have pretty much nothing else to say. The How to Train Your Dragon series is consistently great, and you should go watch it. S tier.
Yeah.
Dragon series is consistently great, and you should go watch it. S tier.
Alright. Abominable. Haven't seen this yet.
In my opinion, Abominable was very abominable. For some reason, this movie tries way too hard to be a Pixar movie and
Abominable? More like an abomination, am I right?
fails in literally every possible way. So Abominable is set in Shanghai, China, and revolves around this Yeti escaping and befriending this girl named Yi. And in an attempt to hide the Yeti from the feds, her and two other kids set out on an adventure to Mount Everest to try and return the Yeti to his home. Also, somehow this Yeti has unexplained mythical powers which just conveniently help Yi in times where the situation seems hopeless. I mean, some people call that convenience. I call that bad writing. There's also for some reason a twist villain in this movie which makes absolutely no sense. There's no point for her to be a twist villain, just play the movie out normally, don't pull any of this Disney bullshit. The movie ends with the Yeti using his powers to escape and finally return to Mount Everest. Jesus Christ, man, what even was this movie? As far as I can remember, Abominable was bad, but not on a level next to Trolls bad. It's still a pretty decent movie if you remove the awful twist villain, so just for that, B tier. And speaking of Trolls, Trolls World Tour. Need I say less? I actually hated this movie so much. So much that I'd even go as far to say as it's worse than any Pixar or Illumination movie I've ever seen. Anyways, the plot of the movie goes like this. Ages ago in the Trolls universe, there used to be a lot of trolls according to different genres of music like rock, classical, and jazz. And they have like this big guitar thing that they each rip the string out of or something. And the main villain, who I don't even know the name of, is trying to steal all of the strings to form sort of a troll's version of an infinity gauntlet. She eventually gets all the strings and snaps her fingers, which wipes out half the population of trolls. Or so I wish. The actual movie consists.
I prefer singing chipmunks better than singing trolls.
Of the Justin Timberlake and Anna Kendrick troll going on an adventure to try and befriend the bad guy troll, which doesn't work, you know, because she's evil and stuff. There's also a bunch of K-pop trolls for some reason. Hey, wait, if K-pop trolls exist in the Trolls universe, doesn't that mean there's a Trolls North Korea?
K-pop, more like K-poop. Classic K-metic meme.
So in the end, all the Trolls music gets deleted or something, but then everyone just unites and sings a song which restores the balance in the Trolls universe, blah blah yada yada yada. Whew, thank God this movie's over with. I'm not even mad anymore, I'm just mainly disappointed with how consistently bad this movie was. Like, where were all the music factions in the last movie? Why did nobody mention the Bergens throughout the whole thing? Is anyone even still watching this video up until this point? Anyways, yeah.
Of course I'm still watching this video.
That was Trolls 2, just get in the bin. Croods: A New Age was surprisingly a great movie. This movie was definitely slower paced than the first and had less action, but it makes up for it with funny characters and just overall a funny premise. So Croods: A New Age starts after the events of Croods 1, with Eep's family trying to find a place to settle down, until caveman dad Grug discovers a wall, leading them to a rich paradise-like oasis.
Right here. All your needs will be met.
I'm hungry.
In a minute!
However, they learn that the land is already owned by a couple called the Betterments, who apparently know Guy as they were best friends with Guy's parents before they got unalived. There's also the Betterment's daughter named Dawn, who the Betterments actively try to set Guy up with. So half the movie is pretty much the Croods living in an advanced oasis, with the Betterments actively trying to gaslight Grug into giving them Guy and leaving forever, which I thought was hilarious. The first 30 minutes of this movie is basically just a sitcom. I mean, to be fair with the Betterments, you gotta do what you gotta do. Gaslight, gatekeep, drug. So in retaliation, Grog decides to eat all the bananas around the island, which were apparently off limits as they were key to the survival of the Betterments and keeping an angry horde of punch monkeys out of the island. And now with no bananas, the punch monkeys get pissed and kidnap Grug, Guy, and Betterment. And through an elaborate backstory, we find out that the monkeys were using the bananas to feed a giant monster monkey. And then Eve, along with the rest of the pack, save Guy and Grug and defeat the giant monkeys. The end. Honestly, this movie was such a surprise to me. I was actually having the best time of my life watching the Croods of all movies. Also, the environments are pretty cool. Definitely an improvement to the first. B tier.
Spirit Untamed.
Spirit Untamed is a trash, forgettable movie. I literally never even heard of this movie before making this video, and I think there's a good reason why. There's not even a proper reason as to why anybody should watch this movie. I mean, if you turn this movie on for a bunch of kids, they'd probably all get bored anyway. Look, I have no idea what this movie even was. Who asked for this? I do not care what happens to this girl, or this guy, or anybody in this movie. The plot of the movie is very simple. Girl likes horse, girl frees horse, girl owns horse. The end. Yeah, that's literally it. I mean, besides the main bad guy, who's this cowboy guy who I
Is this an origin story?
actually kind of rooted for, that
Or a prequel to the first Spirit movie?
that's all this movie had to offer. You guys remember how the first Spirit movie was about riding free and being independent? This movie literally has Spirit from that movie, and I guess he's just the pet of some random girl now, even though the movie is literally called Spirit Untamed.
Read, nigga!
But also, I mean, this was sorta expected coming
Whoa,
from a Netflix
easy
movie
there with the
adaptation.
N-word.
I mean, just look at the animation in itself. F tier, absolute garbage movie, never watch it. The Boss Baby 2 is kind of a pointless movie in my opinion. I mean, even after rewatching Boss Baby 1, you could tell that Dreamworks were opting for this to be a standalone film, but hey, money changes people. Boss Baby 2 takes place about 30 years or so into the standalone film, but hey, money changes people.
$528 million worldwide?
Boss Baby 2 takes place about 30 years or so into the future. We got the adult Boss Baby and adult Tim. And now you're probably thinking, why the hell is this called Boss Baby 2 if the Boss Baby is the boss adult? Well, simple. They literally just de-aged them through some magical milk. I mean, did you seriously think Dreamworks were gonna let one of the most profitable characters go like that? So the rest of this movie follows as Tim goes to school with his daughter to uncover the truth behind the school's principal, which turns out to be a baby somehow. And his entire plan was just to hypnotize all the parents to become zombies, making a baby revolution. Well, that's a stupid plan. So then the principal baby gets defeated and we get a happy ending. Yeah, this movie was complete garbage. Not only is the main plot so generic and tedious, but the main villain baby was such a retarded character that I swear to god I almost popped a vessel watching this movie. In conclusion, even if you somehow like the first Boss Baby, just don't watch this. E tier.
Oh, the bad guy. Haven't seen this yet.
Thank God for the bad guys. This movie is such a great breath of fresh air. I cannot even begin to describe how pumped I was to rewatch this movie after sitting through Boss Baby 2. This movie is just overall great. The art style, the animation, even the music all just ties together so well. Anyway, so this movie's about this group of notorious bank robbers called the Bad Guys, who try and do a final robbery to cement their legacy, but then fail it. There's also this hamster guy who's supposed to be like a goody two-shoes philanthropist like Mr. Beast. But then as it turns out, he's the twist villain and frame the bad guys which get them arrested. And then they get saved by the Crimson Paw, a character definitely created without any malicious intention. The wolf guy and snake guy have a falling out together, and then the hamster teams up with the snake guy, and then the snake guy betrays the hamster, and then the hamster and the bad guys both get arrested, and the end. All in all, this movie was actually really good. Sure, the story was kind of predictable and not really that enticing, especially with the twist villain which I actually predicted from a mile away, and the characters weren't really all that fleshed out, especially the side characters which didn't really have enough screen time in my opinion. But that doesn't really matter to me because this movie was still a fun time. Good movie, A tier.
Oh, Puss in Boots, The Last Wish. I've seen this before, back in Christmas 2022.
Buckle up, boys. This is gonna be a very long review. For some reason, I had never thought about watching Puss in Boots 2 until I was doing research for this video. I actually had the chance to watch this movie, but I decided to watch Black Panther 2 instead, and my god, now I completely see why everyone hated me at the end of my 2022 video. Puss in Boots is everything I could have wanted, plus more from a Puss in Boots movie. The movie starts with Puss in Boots partying and fighting this wooden giant creature, animated in glorious 4 FPS of course. I find it amazing that you could tell that whenever the FPS in this movie drops, you're about to see the most beautiful animation ever conceived. Because even though this movie took notes from Spider-Verse's animation style, it still pulls it off so incredibly well. Every single fight scene feels more alive than ever, despite there being lesser frames for my smooth brain to perceive. And honestly, that's fine, because you don't need 400 FPS 4K Twixtor clips for smooth animation in the first place. I honestly adore this art style so much, and I see so much potential with it in the future. Kung Fu Panda 4. Back to the plot. Puss in Boots gets crushed by a giant bell and wakes up to find out that he's on his last life. And then it cuts to this montage of Puss doing some questionable activities. So then Puss drinks at this bar and what the hell was that sound?
That whistle almost sounds familiar to It's a Small World from Disney World and Disneyland.
Well, that was horrifying. Without a doubt, Death is now probably my favorite Dreamworks villain of all time, and it's literally no contest. The fact that Death was such a horror-oriented villain makes him work so well. This man is literally just a Dreamworks version of Pennywise. Every scene with this goddamn wolf in the movie had me replaying it 10 times just because of how good his character is. So then Puss finds out about the Wishing Star, which is a magical star capable of granting one wish. Puss then realizes that he could use the Wishing Star to get his 9 lives back. So then he attempts to steal the map to the Wishing Star from this guy called Big Jack Horner. Although big is kind of an understatement for the absolute size of this lad. Puss also meets Kitty Softpaws on his way out. Yeah, remember Kitty Softpaws from the first movie? I'm sure you don't. They then team up along with this emotional support puppy to go through this magical portal dimension. But then Puss and Kitty get stopped by Goldilocks and Jack Horner. So then they have this epic fight and... Puss eventually reaches the Wishing Star, but then gets challenged by Death in a duel, to which Puss fully accepts his fate and starts fighting. This is the moment Death pretty much realizes that Puss now values life, so he decides to just spare Puss. Puss then destroys the Wishing Star, Jack Horner pulls a Terminator and dies, and then they sail off into far, far away. Wait, far, far away? Shrek 5 confirmed! So yeah, that was Puss in Boots 2. Unexpectedly, one of the greatest animated movies I've ever seen in my entire life. The animation is smooth and expressive.
Also, will Goldie and the 3 Bears appear in Shrek 5?
The characters were all likable and had development throughout the movie, aside from Jack Horner, who was just kind of an asshole to everyone and didn't change at all. I still find it funny how this guy literally just brutally kills off his own henchmen for fun. People die in this movie and it is hilarious. Anyways, I feel like I've been talking about this movie for way too long now, so I'm gonna move on. Although my review probably still does not do this movie justice, so just go watch it. I declare this movie delicious. S tier. And finally,
I have seen this before, but I didn't bother finishing. Watching it.
To end off probably my longest video I'm ever going to post on this channel, Ruby Gillman Teenage Kraken. Jesus Christ, that is a very long title. Apparently this movie did pretty poorly for Dreamworks, seeing as it literally broke a record for being the least performing in the box office. And looking at the movie theater when I walked in to watch this movie, yeah, I could tell something went very wrong. So the plot of this movie is about this teenage Kraken, Ruby Gillman, trying to fit into a high school. She tries to ask out this boy to prom, but then it goes horribly wrong, and as it turns out, if she falls into the ocean, she turns into a giant Kraken. Yeah, this is basically just Luca X turning red. In the second half, we learned that mermaids and Krakens were apparently at war, which caused the Kraken mom and Kraken grandma's relationship to fall apart. But that doesn't stop Ruby from befriending this mermaid girl, which turns out to be a twist villain, surprise surprise. Ruby and her Kraken mom and grandma then just start beating up the mermaid girl. Ruby goes to prom and the mom and the grandma apologize to each other, because even time can heal a broken relationship. But not this movie's performance at the box office. Honestly, this one was also a big disappointment in my opinion. The first few minutes were pretty good. I really dig this cool aesthetic they had going on with the city in high school. But then the second half where they do all this random mermaid stuff just kind of bored me to death. Also, the mermaid twist villain was kind of awful and didn't even pose as a really big threat in the end. I will admit that this movie isn't...
Is this a Little Mermaid, but an opposite day version or a first version? I don't know.
That bad? It's just not that good either. I guess my expectations were just too high after watching Puss in Boots 2. Dreamworks, you were doing so well, man. Just why B tier? Overall, Dreamworks is a great animation studio, and there's no denying that. And after over 100 painful hours of watching nothing but Dreamworks
100
movies,
painful hours? Holy shit.
here's my final ranking. In order of best to worst, we have Shrek 2, a timeless masterpiece and one of the best Dreamworks movies ever made. Megamind, an unironically good movie which actually teaches a valuable life lesson. Shrek, probably the funniest Dreamworks movie ever made. Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, a movie with a surprisingly great plot and probably the best villain. The Prince of Egypt, an actual work of art in movie form. Madagascar, another classic Dreamworks movie. Wallace and Gromit: The Curse of the Were-Rabbit, probably the best Wallace and Gromit movie out there. Madagascar: Escape to Africa, a well-made sequel to the first Madagascar.
Yep.
How to Train Your Dragon: The Hidden World, a great ending to a great trilogy. Kung Fu Panda, another timeless classic. How to Train Your Dragon 2, an amazing sequel with a pretty cool villain. Over the Hedge, surprisingly an amazing and hilarious fever dreamish-like movie. Captain Underpants: The First Epic Movie, one of the greatest movie adaptations of all time.
Of all time.
Kung Fu Panda 3, a pretty well-written movie all around. The Road to El Dorado, great classic that still holds up today. The Bad Guys, a movie with a simple yet interesting plot and also a cool art style. How to Train Your Dragon, one of the more serious Dreamworks movies, but it's still pretty good. Kung Fu Panda 2, a great movie with a villain that is literally Hitler. Madagascar 3, Europe's Most Wanted, a mostly mediocre movie aside from the amazing opening scene. Shrek Forever After, pretty much Most Wanted, a mostly mediocre movie aside from the amazing opening scene. Shrek Forever After, pretty much just Shrek, but what if? Flushed away. Probably the most British Dreamworks movie. Mr. Peabody and Sherman, a pretty great movie about history and time travel. Chicken Run, a genuinely great stop-motion movie with an enthralling storyline. Penguins of Madagascar, for a Madagascar spin-off, it's pretty alright. Ruby Gilman Teenage Kraken, mediocre movie but pretty cool environments. The Croods: A New Age, ironically an amazing sequel to Croods 1. Puss in Boots, mediocre Shrek spin-off movie. The Croods, an alright movie about funny cavemen. Spirit Stallion of the Cimarron, for how low my expectations were for this movie, it was pretty good. Rise of the Guardians, great movie, just not my type. Shrek the Third, probably the weakest Shrek movie. Abominable, the movie with probably the worst twist villain I've ever seen. Boss Baby, a movie I actually enjoyed for all of the wrong reasons. Shark Tale, an ironically good movie because of how bad it is. Ants, a mediocre movie probably on the same level on A Bug's Life. Sinbad: The Legend of the Seven Seas, it's an okay movie, probably on the same level on A Bug's Life. Sinbad: The Legend of the Seven Seas, it's an okay movie for the most part, but the ending is garbage. B-movie, this is literally a shitpost in movie form. Turbo, just watch Ratatouille. Home, I mean, you can tell they tried. Monsters vs. Aliens, a boring movie with not really anything too special. The Boss Baby Family Business, a movie I hated for all the right reasons. Trolls, a movie that feels like it was made by Illumination. Spirit Untamed, a bad movie in literally every possible way. Trolls World Tour, once again, get in the bin!
Smash reference.
In conclusion, Dreamworks is probably one of the most based animation studios out there. Although some of their movies were kind of bad compared to Pixar, they're still one of the most creative studios in my opinion, with their movies ranging from 2D animation to 3D animation to stop motion animation, and now with the most recent changes with their new art style in Puss in Boots 2 and The Bad Guys. It's amazing to see how far Dreamworks has come. Sure, there might have been a few forked Puss in Boots 2 and The Bad Guys. It's amazing to see how far Dreamworks has come.
That's a pretty cool headquarters design.
Sure, there might have been a few forks in the road and massive L's for Dreamworks in the past, but it's still safe to say that just by watching these movies, it's very clear that the people behind them have passion for what they're doing and genuinely just want to make a good movie. Dreamworks might be the underdog when compared to Pixar in terms of quality and Illumination in terms of the box office, and some of their movies might have been a little hit or miss, but my god, when their movies hit, they hit hard. And even though their most recent movie has been quite the flop, I'm sure we can all look past it and look into the bright future of what might just be the next animation renaissance. Hell, I'm sure their next release is gonna be amazing already. Trolls 3.
Uh-oh.
Oh.
Yeah, congrats on 140k subs. Alright. Well, that concludes it. Thank you all so much for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give this video a like. That'd be appreciated. And click on the original video. And click on a link to the original video to see it for yourself. And subscribe to Chase for this. And make sure to also subscribe to me as well. And with that being said, thank you so much for watching, everyone. So I'll see you all next time. Goodbye.